Hello again, YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. I am in Coventry by the arena. If you haven't seen part one of this trip, go and watch that one first and then come back here. I've got to go home today. So home is best part of 500 miles away, and it is early November, which means that it's cold and it's windy, which is why I'm sat in the car and not stood outside it. You can't hear me otherwise. And it's likely to be wet. Those aren't good conditions for driving an EV, are they? Or are they? We're going to find out just how difficult it is to do a 500-mile trip in a Tesla without much planning in the UK. Am I going to be spending ages and ages charging? Am I going to be waiting and queuing for charging? Am I going to be tearing what's left of my hair out with the stress of it all? Let's find out. We are on our way to the customer meeting. I've gone from one side of Coventry to the other. And the interesting thing about this one is there's supposed to be a Tesla destination charger tucked away at the back. Let's go and have a look. Now, I haven't actually put the venue in for this meeting. When they booked it, they didn't know I was turning up in the Tesla. This is not pre-planned. This is quite literally, I've gone on Zap Map and had a look and gone, ooh, a charger. Let's see if it's working. Now, it doesn't matter if it's working or not, or if there's somebody on it or not, because I've got 42% of charge, and that is plenty to get me out to the other side of Birmingham and onto where I'm going. But for the time being, let us go and have a look and see if it's actually there. Right. I think I know.
Turn right.
Shut up. I think I know which car park this is in. But there's one way to find out. Down the back, through the gap. Oop. Man walking with a big tray. Somebody else with a big trolley. Is it on the trolley? If anyone remembers Victoria Wood, thank you very much. There it is. No. There it was. It's not there anymore. Right, that's fairly straightforward. That is almost tragic, but ooh, there's a stack of them now down there. So they have moved the car. They have moved the chargers and put them in the car park over there. I have just gone and had a look to see about these other chargers, and there's actually 8 of them, but it doesn't tell you who's running them. There's a please scan my QR code, which you can't read in the sun. I've Googled it and I can't find them. What's the point in that? Right, meeting over. Half an hour later than I was hoping. I haven't had any lunch either, which is annoying. And the M6 is shut. So we're going the East Coast route. I've also had a look at those destination chargers, which I saw, but then couldn't find. 70p a kilowatt hour, 70p for a 7 kilowatt post. That is complete lunacy. Happily, I don't need to bother because I'm driving a Tesla. Scrap that. The good news, the M6 has reopened, so we'll go that way instead. So it's 3 o'clock, I'm on the M6 in Birmingham, having left at 20 to 3. So left at 20 to 3, it's 500 miles home. So it's going to be comfortably midnight by the time I get back, because left a little bit later than I was anticipating because things ran over a little bit. So the debate now is basically around charging strategy. So the car is suggesting that I charge up at Hilton Park northbound and Gretna Green and Dundee. So not all as long stops, but in essence, those are all slow chargers, as in 130 to 150 kilowatt max speed, with a reality of by the time I actually get plugged onto them, if they're busy, I'm going to be splitting the charge. I might only be getting 65. So what we're going to do instead is pick our own charger. So instead of going to Hilton Park northbound, I'm going to go past it and go to Trentham at Stoke-on-Trent, because I've got enough range to be able to get to that one. Trentham is a 250 kilowatt charger. So if I get there on it saying I'll arrive on about 15%, if I arrive on that with a preconditioned battery, then I will get a much faster charging speed doing that than I would have done otherwise. I'd much rather bang on to a 250 where I'm not going to have the charging rate split than to be trundling around waiting on a 130, 150. Here's the thing. On any other car than one of these, then I wouldn't be having to have these debates, because so many of the rapid chargers are 50 kilowatt, or you find somebody on a network where they've at least invested a little bit and it becomes 150 kilowatt at the absolute top end, if the car and the charger can handshake to be able to go at that speed, and so many of them can't. You hear all of these things about people having horrible times charging and not getting remotely the speed that they need off them. So I'm not going to do that. What I think that I'm going to do is go to Trentham, bang as much charging at as fast a speed as I can on that, and then I'll do another stop, potentially a zap and dash at Charnock Richard, or potentially even look at going to T-Bay. Now T-Bay is southbound only, but you can get to it from the northbound side. So potentially go to T-Bay, because again, those are those brand new 250 kilowatt chargers. And then the car would want to route me all the way west, so basically up past Glasgow and then Stirling, Perth, Dundee, that way. I'm more likely to route past Edinburgh, because one, it's a faster charger, and two, there's a McDonald's and I'm likely to need some food later. So considerations and things that I basically just need to have a think about before I get much further up. But to start off with, we're going to Trentham. We have got 38 miles to run, and it says it's 46 minutes. Part of the reason for allowing it to trundle a little bit is traffic on the M6. I mean, it's moving, but it's, I suppose, typical M6 traffic. It was closed further ahead, so I would have been getting stuck had I left earlier, or more realistically, I would have had to have gone the East Coast route, which is definitely further and definitely slower. And you're adding another half an hour on at least. So swings and roundabouts to consider, but the car at least knows the condition of all of the charge points. It knows how many people are on them, it knows what the speed is, and it can add. So the car is giving me options, and I'm basically saying, yes, that one please, no thank you to that one. So Trentham rather than Hilton Park for the first stop, and we'll see how we go. Right, so it's now on the back with a much longer cable than we had before, but it is basically the same principle, which is press the button on the top, your charging flap opens, and then in it goes. Let's see what kind of speed we're going to get. I'm actually quite interested now. So it's plugged in, click, starting to charge. 116, here we go. 44, 89, 126. Well, that's already faster than I would have got. 152, and we're still going. 177, 190, 205, 219. So it peaked at 219 and it's dropped to 212, 213, 208. Okay, so basically I got to 208. So that is significantly quicker than it would have been had I gone at it the other way. So what it will tell you as well is basically how many miles per hour it is adding with a charge. Now, you're never actually going to stick for that kind of length of time, but look, 806 miles of range added if it carries on charging at that speed for an hour. Now, it can't carry on at that speed for an hour, but that is pretty damn quick. So while this thing is hoofing power in, I'm going to stick at it. But the main thing is I need to try and get some food, because I am freaking starving, in the best words of Mr. Bjorn Nyland on his channel. So here's the other thing about these new chargers, which is they can actually then cope with non-Teslas. Like, so this MG, to be fair, has got the charge port on the left side, which is the right side, rather than the right side, which is the wrong side. But you've also then got, look, Mustang Mach-E. that can get a charge without any particular issues. Although, to be fair, what he's had to do is park there, which means that this stall can't be used at all because he is on the wrong side, which isn't great, but so we'll still have to get there where people actually learn to park on the correct side rather than the wrong side, but we are at least getting there. And then there's a couple here that still haven't yet been uncovered, but it's coming. Okay, this isn't quite what I didn't know what I was expecting, to be fair. It's some kind of posh outlet village with all of these weird little shops selling different things. So I have seen on some other people's channels that apparently EV charging means that you spend loads of money that you wouldn't be doing otherwise. You know what? This isn't a bad place to actually buy some presents. And Christmas is coming up. I am looking for food, and there's actually quite a lot of choice, but they want £8.75 for a turkey baguette. I don't think I'm actually that hungry, so the plan is I am going to get going in a minute and head up to T-Bay. Now, T-Bay is southbound, but you can get at it via the service roads, and yes, that is legal. I think I'm basically going to do that. So I've got enough now to get me up to T-Bay, charge up there to get me enough to get to Edinburgh, and then have a longer stop at Edinburgh to get some tea. It's 4 o'clock, so you're probably talking gone 8 or something for a Mackie D's, but that's okay because it's going to be a long day. Right, I've been here for 17 minutes. I've had a browse around a couple of shops, dived in the loot, had a look for some food and decided it was too expensive, and I'm ready to go. So because I stopped here rather than at Hilton Park, that was a relatively short stop, which means that gets me enough to get to T-Bay for another zap and dash to get me to Edinburgh, where I'll refuel it a little bit longer. Either way, let's go. So, although I was there for 17 minutes, I've actually overcharged. I could have unplugged on probably 12 or something like that. So I think I've lost about 5 minutes. Basically because I was too busy browsing the shops. I'd never been there before. If I had, oh my god, there's a couple of, that's a guy with a really loud exhaust, and there was another one going the other way as well. Had I had more time, I think actually I probably could have spent quite a lot of money in there, but it's not on food. Yes, I could have spent a lot of money on food had I bought that £9 baguette, sod that, but I could have spent quite a lot of money on stuff, so it's probably good that I'm pulling myself away. Anyway, I've also rechecked traffic. The M6 was closed, it's now open, but by the look of it I'm going to lose another chunk of time going up the motorway as well. On the M6 still north of Wigan. So as you've seen, the traffic was awful. Getting through the roadwork section was truly awful because not only is traffic really heavy, but it was also raining quite a lot. So I've actually lost 35 minutes on the schedule that it had given me. So that's how long I spent rumbling along in additional traffic after there'd been, by the look of it, a breakdown that had blocked another lane. So I'm now going to get home, according to this, at 1:15, as in 01:15, having left at what, 20 to 3? So I left at 20 to 3. It's 20 to 6, so I've been on the road for 3 hours. And I was stopped for, let's call it 25 minutes off the motorway. So that includes charging time and also coming off and doing that. So I've been going for 3 hours, of which 2 hours 35 has been actually driving, and less than 2 hours has been actually moving. So this has been a right royal pain in the bum. However, I have spoken to my colleague who had gone on the same meeting, and they were heading east, so M42, M1, and the M1 had come to an absolute grinding halt and was going absolutely nowhere. So I was already going to lose 30 to 35 minutes versus even what I've gone through to go that way, and it sounds like it's got worse. So who knows how long it would have taken had I gone that way. Either way, the one thing that you can't really plan for is traffic. I'll tell you something though, I know I've got to stop a couple of times to charge, but I'd want to stop anyway, because although I want to get home, I actually want to brake, because it feels like I've been doing quite a bit of this. So I'm stopping in an hour and a quarter at T-Bay, and by the time we get there, I will be ready to stop. So, okay, it might be a slightly longer stop than if I was just going and diving in the toilet and then grabbing another drink or something, but I would be stopping. So when you see these things about, well, my car can do 600 miles or 800 miles or 1,000,000 miles, it's nonsense. You surely need to take a stop because you're tired, or because you're hungry, or you need a wee, or whatever else it is. The idea that you're just going to keep driving and driving and driving until you crash or fall asleep is dangerous. And don't let somebody tell you otherwise. Oh dear God. I am at Preston, junction 31. All lanes appear to be closed. A fire engine has gone up the hard shoulder. The gantry is saying lane closure, but I think they've stopped traffic. So I'm wondering, has somebody crashed? Is it yet another Range Rover diesel on fire? Because it won't be an EV. Something has happened, but this is going to make me even more preposterously late home than I was going to be, because this would appear to be the day that all of the traffic turns to hell, which is good. Anyway, on the bright side, I am sat here in my nice, warm and comfortable Tesla, and there are worse places to be sitting. Although I would quite like not to be sitting in it for quite as long a period of time, if that's at all possible. But it doesn't look like it, does it? So you can't see it on camera. I'm actually only a few hundred yards further up the road than I was, even though maybe 10 minutes or so have gone past. But I've just seen on the right hand side, on the opposite southbound carriageway, basically a police car and what looked to be 3 damaged vehicles. Now that isn't rubbernecking, because I was able to look, because like now we were completely stationary. It's not rubbernecking. Well, I suppose it is, but it's not dangerous rubbernecking because we weren't going anywhere at all. However, that isn't why we're stuck. So it's not a rubbernecking queue. We're stuck because something probably very similar has happened further ahead. It says there's a lane closure, but it's not telling me which lane. I don't really care. On the bright side, unlike various other cars in this queue, I don't have a clutch pedal, so I'm not constantly having to go up and down with both ankles to be able to power the car. In fact, because I'm on autopilot, I'm not having to do anything at all. I am monitoring, and there is a nice graphic on the screen showing me all of the vehicles surrounding me, but I'm not actually doing anything. The car is doing the driving. I am just monitoring, and that is extremely relaxing. Despite the traffic and despite the queuing and all of the rest of it, this is okay, because relatively speaking, I am in a secure bubble with cars in front and behind all going at basically no miles an hour. So no one, hopefully, is going to come piling into the back of me, hopefully. I'm not going to get squished between two trucks, which you see all kinds of other horrible accidents, and the car has got my back. Well, the good news is I got through the big queue without actually having a clue what had caused it. I mean, genuinely, there wasn't a big pile of crash damaged vehicles, there wasn't anything on fire, nothing. It just cleared, and that is fine. But as you can see now, and I'm running at reduced speed because of the weather, but this is absolutely awful. So we've had traffic, and we've had weather. We've had weather and traffic. Or what else does it want to throw at me? At least it's 9 degrees, so I don't need to worry about, I don't know, sleet or anything crazy like that. But this isn't exactly the trip home that I was hoping for. This is... When I looked at doing this, I probably should have thought a little harder about exactly what it could have been like. Anyway, we're here now. And to be fair, the alternative was flying, and every time I have flown south recently, the flights have been increasingly substantially late. So, whatever. So I'm coming up now on T-Bay services. I am heading northbound, and I need the southbound side, happily, because there's a lodge and things, you are able to go between them. And when I was there, southbound, I was chatting with a guy who was doing as I'm doing now and heading north. He actually was heading to Buckie in Moray, which is also on the north coast of the northeast of Scotland. So somebody who's basically doing a similar journey to this, he wasn't doing it in the dark as I am. Oh dear. Right, into the services. So I know largely where it is that I need to go. I need to go past the building and then turn left. Excellent. Tesla is on the sign, which is nice of them. So while I'm plugged in, I am going to have another look at what my nearly went past it, at what my route options are, because I think there's a choice to make now about basically East Coast and West Coast again. Yes, because there is the going towards Edinburgh and going to the supercharger there, or there is staying on the west side, swing past Glasgow, Stirling to presumably the Perth or Dundee supercharger. Perth and Dundee are both slower, certainly the Dundee ones. I'm going to double check Perth and see actually whether that might be an option or not. Now, where does the actual... Oh, okay, the motorway slip road comes in down here, doesn't it? Right, yes, stop. Good, I shall definitely stop. Nothing coming, get out of the way. Oh, the truck that was coming down will go in the other way. Okay, and there's the chargers. It feels much later than the 3 minutes past 7 that it is. It feels like it's the middle of the frickin' night already. See that? 210 kilowatt. It actually hit 223. Initially it slowed down a touch because obviously we are now a little bit fuller than we were. You can hear the unit whirring away, which is a good noise. This charging unit is so absurdly quicker than anything you're going to get with any other car. It's crazy. Right, I most definitely need to go and get something to eat, and I'm really in need of a break. That was a hard session driving up here on that awful, busy, nasty motorway. So let's get on and do that. Still at T-Bay, it's got to be done. Don't forget that according to parts of YouTube, nobody ever stops at the services to have a drink. Or to have anything to eat. This is definitely something that's been forced on me, and not down to the fact that I haven't eaten a proper meal since breakfast time. It's 7 at night. So I'm sat here drinking coffee and eating fish and chips. And very good fish and chips it is as well. And while I'm doing so, my car is charging up. Try and do that in a petrol or diesel car. I am back underway again, so heading north once again after actually a really nice dinner at T-Bay Services. It has got this reputation as being the best services in the country, and it lives up to it. I would not eat service station food anywhere else, but there, absolutely, fish and chips. It was really, really, really nice. So a change of plan in having sat and had a look at Google Maps again while I'm sat there. So it was suggesting that the Edinburgh route was going to be 25 minutes slower. So screw the Edinburgh route, let's just go the Dundee route. So we're going to go up towards Glasgow, Stirling, Perth, Dundee, Aberdeen, and then home. I think it's going to be something like 1:15 by the time I get back, and it is 10 to 8 now. It's fine. I mean, I knew that was kind of the case anyway. What I am going to do is basically just not thrash it quite as hard as I was doing on the way up here, because frankly I just need to chill. So I've got it set on chill mode now rather than anything else. I just want to waft my way back home with as much autopilot as possible. And the reason for going this way is that apart from the last 20 miles, the remaining 300, no, it won't be 300, will it? The remaining, 250 or something, is all at least dual carriageway, if not motorway. That, when you're doing a trip like this right now, is worth its weight in gold. So I'm actually fine with just wafting my way back. I could have thrashed it across country towards Edinburgh, but if that's going to take 20, if that route, forget charging, if that route is 25 minutes longer than going straight up the motorway and staying on the dual carriageways all the way, then what's the point? You're not going to save 25 minutes there with a faster charge. So I'll stick with 150 kilowatt max. I'm aiming to stop in Dundee, where I'm going to be on, I don't know, 15 or something percent. When I get there, I'll get 130 maybe, something like that, for a good while. Basically just enough to be able to get me so that I can get home on fumes. What's the version of fumes if it's electricity? Electrons? I want to get home running on electrons. Yes, that's what it is. Basically, I don't need any energy in the battery left when I get home. I've arrived home on 3% before now. I'll aim to do the same. Yeah, let's just make it back. And then have a wee dram when we get home. Hello from Perth. I have stopped at Broxton Park and Ride. I need snacks and a drink. So I did think about going as far as a Dundee, but that's just a hotel and it hasn't got anything. So I'm going to wander across to the garage. Basically, I think I need nice chocolatey goodness and some energy drinks to be able to keep myself going. So I've just plugged that in and it's charging at 140 kilowatts, which is not as quick as a V3 charger would do, because these are V2 with 2 cables in each. Not as fast as those, but certainly faster than. There's a load of Charge Place Scotland ones over there. They only charge at 50. So this is going at nearly 3 times as fast as those ones. Perhaps the only good thing for our Charge Place Scotland people down there is, although their charger is really, really slow, it's only 35p a kilowatt. You know what? For a fast, not rapid charger, that's okay. This is only 35p a kilowatt as well, which again is absolutely fine, but 50 kilowatts is not enough for modern cars. It just isn't. It is not remotely enough for modern cars where there's bigger batteries. You need more oomph, and they just haven't got it. But saying that, look at all of these. So you've got a big metal fence here and a whole load of new rapids going in, and then this appears to be a basically EV forecourt that is being built. So I did see something on a video complaining about the fact that EV charging doesn't have a canopy over the top the way a petrol station does. Very true, very few of them do, except this is clearly going to have one. So that combined with them is going to make a real difference. I suppose my only question is, how much money are they going to charge? I bet it's not 35p a kilowatt. Decommissioned EV chargers. So let's have a look. We have got a whole canopy full waiting to be installed. We've got a whole load there behind chain link. That's a rapid. These aren't. There's literally one rapid. These are all, what, maybe 22 kilowatt? So are we really saying that for this busy park and ride site, we've now only got currently a single rapid, and then there's another absolute pile of 7 or 22 kilowatt charging posts going in? Considering how busy Broxton is, and this roundabout connects the A9 towards Inverness in the far north and towards Glasgow and Stirling, and the M90 down towards Dundee and Aberdeen and the northeast coast, and of course the M90 down towards Edinburgh. This roundabout has basically every destination going on it, and they've literally only got, we've got 12 of these, and they're now down to a single charger. That's not good. So just to spin the thing back around again, and hopefully there's kind of enough light to be able to see me, at least part of my face, so I look kind of evil and menacing. I would have stopped here or Dundee or somewhere anyway for a good 15 minutes. I am not capable of driving hour after hour after hour after hour without a break. I basically need to get out, get a bit of fresh air, get something as a snack, definitely at this time of night where you need to keep fueling, quite frankly. So I would have stopped anyway. You're probably adding another 5 minutes onto that stop by the fact that I am plugged in still and charging, but I am basically ready to go. I absolutely would have stopped at T-Bay, or if not T-Bay, then I would have stopped somewhere else where there was, say, a McDonald's or something, and that is a stop, eat, pause. Again, you're adding maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes on to the whole thing because of charging, but that is quite literally it. I just don't drive all night long without a break, and I know some people on YouTube and elsewhere claim that they do. I don't. When this is finished, it's going to be great with all these slow chargers and this hub, but at the moment a single rapid charger here is utterly bonkers. So things being done to fix it, great, but at the moment, wow. I mean, wow. Not remotely enough infrastructure for the amount of EVs that there are. Not remotely enough. And it's fine for them to say that they're decommissioning them because they're commissioning the new ones. How about commissioning the new ones first and then switching the old ones off? Take those ones out after you've put the new ones in, because otherwise, I mean, you could get stuck very easily, especially as the single charger left is a 50 kilowatt one, 3 times slower than what I've just had. Not good. Really not good. Anyway, back out to the Broxton roundabout and then back onto the M90 and then away towards home. And boy oh boy oh boy, will I be glad to get there. It is midnight. It's also 2 degrees with a pretty clear sky. There is, oh wow, an absolutely amazing view of Orion off to my right hand side. wow, okay, that is a pretty clear view. That's why it's only 2 degrees. So you might think that would burn more energy, and ordinarily maybe it would, but it doesn't appear to be. I have still got bags of power in reserve, so I am going basically pegged on the speed limit. Let's get home. I've got just over an hour now to run 64 miles. You know what? This is fine. On my original plan, when I thought I'd be away by 2 o'clock and there wouldn't be horrible traffic, I would have been home comfortably by now. But considering how nasty both the traffic and the weather have been, honestly, I'm actually grateful that I am driving home under my own steam. And I think this is something that gets forgotten sometimes. Every time you get disruption because there's been a big crash, that's, you know, potentially people's lives being lost, or certainly, you know, being greatly affected, or even if it's just their journey being abruptly ended. You know, the guys who were piled up on the other carriageway at Preston, they weren't going anywhere. I don't know how far they were going, but they've got to get that vehicle recovered and then find a way to be able to get to wherever it is that they're going. I at least am still going under my own steam. I'm running later than I could have been, but I am still running. So that's still a positive about all of this. And you know what? When I can look out and see stars the way that I am, it's not actually that bad at all. And once again, Tesla makes it a nice relaxing drive. I am rolling along on autopilot without particularly much to be worried about or concerned about or anything, because the car is very, very, very good at driving itself with me just monitoring along. So what do I make of that trip now that it's in the past? It was long. It was long, and it was frustrating at times with both the traffic and the weather, or at one point traffic and the weather. I really struggled to think of another trip that just seemed to pile it on with regards to one thing, then another thing, then another thing. When I set off, it was telling me that the delays were likely to be basically on the section past the M56, M62, Wigan, basically because the road had been closed and you still had all of these queues that needed to clear. And that bit was really, really slow for mile after mile after mile after mile. There was the alternative route of looping through Manchester, basically, but that doesn't seem any quicker particularly. It's much further around, and also you've got all of the Manchester traffic, so there's an element of just sitting it and try and cut through it. And then of course we cleared that and we got to Preston and Preston was a bit where basically it stopped and essentially stayed stopped for a little while, and there was a crash on the other side as well, just to add to the fun. I lost so much time. So it got to the point where I needed a break, even though I hadn't actually gone that far, if that makes sense, because I'd been sat in the car for so long. So let's talk about the 3 stops that I did. I stopped at Trentham because I wanted to go out and have a look, basically. I know what Hilton Park's like. I know what Gill is like. Those two are both slower. I thought, let's dive off the motorway and go to the rapids at there. And you know what? They were rapid, and there's plenty of them. I think I got slightly sidetracked with the village, though, because I ended up charging there for longer than I actually needed to. So you could take 5 minutes off that. Let's be honest, it probably wasn't any quicker by the time I'd come off the motorway and got there and then added the extra time than it would have been if I'd just gone to Hilton Park or even Kiel and and plugged in onto a slower charger. Then we've got the stop at T-Bay. By the time I got to T-Bay, my stomach was trying to eat its way out of my belly. So I was going to stop and eat. And if it wasn't at T-Bay, And let's be honest, if I had been driving a petrol car, I probably wouldn't have stopped at T-Bay. Maybe I would have pulled over somewhere else where there's like a McDonald's or something, but I would have sat in because the need to get home is there, but at the same time, I'm knackered and I need some food. So I would have pulled over and stopped anyway. Being able to charge while I recharge with fuel is one of the positives of having an EV. So I don't think the T-Bay stop is a particular issue. I would have done that one anyway. Then we've got the stop that I did at Perth, Broxton. That definitely was longer than it would have been if I had just been stopping to use a loo and grab a snack. So that added another 10 minutes on or something. So on a trip of that length, I think I added realistically an extra 20 minutes, okay, versus how I would have done it had I been driving the previous Mitsubishi Outlander or my Volvo S90 diesel. 20 minutes on a trip that lasted hour after hour after hour sat in traffic. So I don't actually think that's necessarily as bad as some of you are going to be shouting at the screen and saying that it is, if nothing else because of the trump card that you get with this car, which is the ease of driving it. So I can sit there bumping along in traffic, literally doing nothing. It's on autopilot. So the car is not only able to map all of the vehicles around me, it can see vehicles that I can't see in blind spots, sat behind me, in front, whatever. It's mapping the traffic and it's reacting accordingly. So all of the throttle and brake inputs and steering inputs and everything are done by the car. And that is a hugely, hugely relaxing thing. And I'm comparing that to, you know, the Outlander or the Volvo. The Volvo actually had a thing called Pilot Assist, which tried to do the same thing, only not remotely as well. The Tesla is just so much better than that system. But I think back to previous cars, if I'd been in one of my manual gearbox cars, that traffic would have been absolute hell because you're constantly having to go down into first gear and stop and then slip the clutch to pull away and then do the same thing into second and then back down again. Constant throttle and clutch inputs, and you're spared that with a Tesla. So I think really that's my take. It took a little bit longer. It definitely took a little bit longer. It cost a lot less. Right? It definitely cost a lot less because even filling up with supercharger energy is significantly cheaper than filling up with diesel, especially if you're having to do that on a long trip on the main roads. And it was certainly easier on my ankles because I'm not having to do lots and lots and lots of little inputs. So I think there it is. It swings and roundabouts. Would I want to do long trips in horrible traffic now in any other car? No. This just makes it simple and relaxing, even if you're just going, oh, come on, what are we sat here for? Anyway, I know there's a lot of people who are relatively new to the channel. Hi, welcome. Please hit the bell icon so that you get a reminder for the next videos. I've got more road trips coming up where you can shout at the screen and tell me how your 20-year-old diesel would be better. Fantastic. Tell me in the comments what you think. And I'll see you, hopefully, back here very soon on Just Get a Tesla.